12 songs, all from 1964, all turning 62 this year. And you already know every one of them. The riffs, the hooks, the words.
I had to run away and get down on my knees.
But knowing a song and knowing the story behind it, those are two completely different things. Because 1964 was the year rock music rewrote its own DNA, and some of the most important moments happened when nobody was looking. Number 12, Herman's Hermits. I'm Into Something Good.
Oh yeah, something tells me I'm into
16 years old, lead singer of one of the biggest bands in the British Invasion. And the song that made him famous? He didn't write a single word of it. Herman's Hermits weren't supposed to be a Carole King story.
just a one-night stand, so I asked to see you next week.
But in 1964, a teenager named Peter Noone from Manchester walked into a studio under the direction of producer Mickie Most.
Next week, and she told me I could. I asked to see her and she told me I could.
Yes, the same Mickie Most producing The Animals, and cut a record that would hit #1 in the UK that summer.
I moved her home and she held my hand. I knew we could.
The song was I'm Into Something Good, and Noone had nothing to do with writing it. Written by Jerry Goffin and Carole King, the songwriting team already responsible for half the hits on American radio.
Tells me I'm into something good. Tells me I'm
The song had already been recorded and released earlier that same year by an American singer named Earl Jean McCrae. It barely cracked the US Top 40. Radio passed it by.
tells me I'm into something. Something tells me I'm into.
Then Mickie Most handed it to this 16-year-old kid with a face girl screamed at, and the same song that had gone nowhere in America was suddenly #1 in the UK, climbing fast in the States. You probably know that feeling, when the right person delivers something that other people had already given up on, and it becomes unstoppable.
Feel like I hope she would. Something tells me I'm in.
But here's what makes it sting a little. Earl Jean McCrae wrote the original arrangement, sang the heart out of it, watched it disappear, and then a kid from a city she'd probably never heard of took the same notes, the same words, and turned them into a career-launching moment.
She told me I could. I asked to see her and she told me I could. So
That's the music industry in 1964, compressed into one single. Carole King didn't mind. She was already writing the next one.
oh yeah, something tells me I'm into something.
And Peter Noone had no idea the machinery he'd walked into. That's usually how the first big one works. You don't see it coming.
Can I be the one in love? But she's
Gonna
Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story. Number 10, The Zombies, She's Not There.
How would I know? Why should I care? Please don't.
They won a talent contest, got a recording contract, had 2 weeks to produce original material, and the song their keyboardist wrote in a panic became one of the most sophisticated records to come out of the British invasion.
On you, but it's too late to say you're sorry.
The Zombies were teenagers from St. Albans, Hertfordshire. Not Liverpool, not London. They won the Hertz Beat competition in 1964, which earned them a session at Decca Records.
But it's too late to say you're sorry.
The problem? They were supposed to record something original, and Rod Argent had almost nothing. With 2 weeks until the session, their producer Ken Jones said, "You could always try to write something."
Bother trying to find her. She's not there.
Argent went home, picked up a John Lee Hooker record, looked at a song title, No One Told Me, and started building something new from those 4 words. It was only the 3rd song he'd ever written. He wrote the opening bass line specifically for their bassist Chris White to play.
Tan the color of her hair. voice was soft and cool. I like
He wrote the drum part. He built the whole architecture around the voice of Colin Blunstone. Breathy, layered, unlike anything else on British radio at the time. And the lead instrument wasn't a guitar, it was an electric piano, a Hohner pianette.
pride, but it's too late to say you're sorry.
In 1964, you didn't lead a rock hit with electric piano. It simply wasn't done. She's Not There hit number 12 in the UK, fine. But in the US, on the strength of a single radio play on New York station Wins,
But she's not there.
it climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in December 1964. George Harrison, on the UK television show Jukebox Jury, declared it a hit before anyone knew if it would be.
We're clear and bright, but she's not there.
He was right. The Byrds later told Argent that his jazz-flavored keyboard solo specifically made them realize they could put that kind of playing on a rock and roll record. That insight led, indirectly, to 8 Miles High.
Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there.
But the Zombies followed She's Not There with a series of stalled singles, broke up convinced they were failures, left behind a masterpiece album called Odyssey and Oracle that nearly no one heard.
Pride, but it's too late to say you're sorry.
And got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019, over 50 years after that talent contest, being the influence nobody credits. That's a specific kind of loneliness, but the music is still here.
But she's not there.
Number 9, The Moody Blues, Go Now. The voice on this record eventually left the band that made it famous, linked up with Paul McCartney, and helped write some of the biggest rock songs of the 1970s. But in late 1964, nobody knew any of that. They just knew the record was extraordinary. The Moody Blues were 5 months old when they cut Go Now. Formed in Birmingham in May 1964, still figuring themselves out. Then guitarist and lead singer Denny Laine heard a record by an American singer named Bessie Banks. Written by Larry Banks and Milton Bennett, it had been released on a small New York label in January 1964. It barely registered. Laine heard it once and told the band, "We need to record this." And here's where something unexpected happened. Paul McCartney heard the Moody Blues version on the radio and called the BBC so enthusiastically to praise the record that the BBC switchboard, not believing it was actually McCartney, refused to put him through. He was sitting on hold, trying to tell a DJ he'd just heard something as good as what the Beatles were doing. Go Now reached number 1 in the UK in January 1965, knocking I Feel Fine, a Beatles record, off the top of the chart. The Moody Blues only number 1. And instead of launching a run of hits, it launched a series of complicated decisions. Denny Laine quit in 1966. The label wanted them on the road constantly. The money wasn't coming in. "We got the fame," he said later, "but we didn't get the money." After Laine left, the band rebuilt completely. New members, new direction. Nights in white satin. Tuesday Afternoon, a whole different band. And Laine? McCartney called in 1971. Wings was forming. Laine was in from the start, the only non-McCartney to last through every incarnation. He co-wrote Mull of Kintyre. The voice on Go Now went on to help make some of the most played songs in rock history. He passed away in December 2023. That's what one right record in one right moment can set in motion. Number 8, The Searchers, Needles and Pins.
Needles and pins.
The Searchers heard this song being performed at the Star Club in Hamburg, Germany, by another British act named Cliff Bennett. They liked it so much they went straight into a studio and recorded it before Bennett could beat them to it.
Why can't I stop?
That instinct was exactly right. Needles and Pins was written by Jack Nitzsche and Sonny Bono. Yes, that's Sonny Bono. Years before Sonny and Cher, when he was still a session man working for Phil Spector.
The tears I gotta hide.
Bono wrote the words while Nitzsche played guitar, though Jackie DeShannon, who recorded the song first in 1963, maintains she co-wrote it and never got credit. That dispute has never fully been resolved.
The tears I gotta hide. Hey, I thought
DeShannon's version peaked at number 84 in the States. Nobody in Britain knew it existed. Then the Searchers spotted it, moved faster than anyone else, and released it in January 1964.
why can't I stand up and tell myself I'm strong?
It went to number 1 in the UK. And here's the thing about the actual recording. There's a squeak running through the whole track. A faulty bass drum pedal that made it through the session, through mixing, through mastering, and onto the finished record. It's still there. Right now, on every streaming version of this song, that pedal is still squeaking. That 12-string guitar texture, that folk rock sound that made it feel different from everything else on the chart in early 1964, influenced the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night sessions.
Saw her face, was a face I loved, and I knew.
Which influenced the Byrds, who built American folk rock on top of it. All of it traceable back to a Searchers recording session in late 1963.
Needles and pins, needles and pins.
If you've ever tried to explain why the Searchers matter to someone who wasn't there, you know how that conversation goes. They were the missing link between Mersey beat and folk rock, and almost nobody names them.
Needles and pins.
Number 7, The Beach Boys, I Get Around.
Place where the kids are hip.
The British invasion lands in February 1964, and 6 number 1 singles later, an American band from California finally puts a stop to it. Not with anger, with harmonies. And a guitar arrangement nobody quite knew what to do with. I Get Around hit number 1 in the United States on the 4th of July, 1964. That timing was not accidental. The Beach Boys often performed on the 4th, and the fact that it ended a run of British domination of the American charts mattered to Brian Wilson more than he let on. Beatlemania had genuinely shaken him. We stepped on the gas a little bit, he said. I Get Around was the acceleration. Here's what most people miss about the recording. Most people hear I Get Around and think, clean, bright California pop. But Carl Wilson's guitar is fuzzy and reverbed and genuinely ahead of its time. The vocal harmonies sit on top and pull all the focus, which is exactly why you don't notice the guitar.
My buddies and me, you're getting real well known, yeah, but that.
Brian Wilson buried the innovation underneath the hook. That's a level of production instinct that most people in 1964 didn't have the language to describe. The songwriting credit has its own complicated history. Wilson was originally listed as the sole author. Mike Love sued him in the 1990s for co-writing credits on 35 Beach Boys songs, including this one. The lawsuit settled. Love got his credits. The relationship between the two never fully recovered. That's a specific kind of damage. The thing you built together becoming the thing that pulls you apart. And here's the part that gets me every time.
Wouldn't be right to leave your best girl home on a Saturday night. I get her.
By the end of 1964, same year I Get Around sat at number 1, Brian Wilson had a breakdown on a flight from Los Angeles to Houston. Sobbing, unable to stop, crumbling under the weight of writing, producing, touring, being the architect of everything.
I get around, yeah, get around, round, I get around.
He stopped touring, stayed in the studio, started quietly building toward Pet Sounds. The number 1 record and the breakdown, same calendar year.
Guys know us and they leave us alone. I get around.
Number 6, The Rolling Stones, It's All Over Now. The Rolling Stones were in Chicago for their first American tour when a DJ handed them a record by a black R&B group from Cleveland. 9 days later, they were in a studio recording it, and then they had their first number 1. It's All Over Now was written by Bobby Womack and his sister-in-law Shirley Womack, recorded by their group The Valentinos, produced by Sam Cooke. Released a few months earlier, it had peaked at number 94 in America and gone almost nowhere. Then New York DJ Murray the K played it for the Stones. 9 days later, they were at Chess Records in Chicago, Chuck Berry's studio, Muddy Waters' studio, sacred ground for the band, cutting their own version. Bobby Womack did not want this to happen. His initial response was not polite. Sam Cooke convinced him to allow it. The Stones released it. It went to number 1 in the UK. On July 14, 1964, the first number 1 in the Rolling Stones history, Womack received his first royalty check, and then he told Sam Cooke that Mick Jagger could have any song he wanted. Keith Richards' guitar solo? John Lennon heard it and told Keith it was rubbish. Keith agreed. It didn't matter. The record was already at the top of the chart, and that Chess studio session changed something in the band.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is
For the first time on record, they sounded like themselves, not like a British copy of American Blues, like the Rolling Stones. Being in that room, where Barry and Waters and Wolf had recorded, gave them a specific kind of confidence that you can hear in the recording if you know to listen for it. Bobby Womack went on to become one of the greatest soul artists in American music. He guested on the Rolling Stones' Dirty Work in 1986, 22 years after they'd taken his song. He passed away in 2014. That circle closed in a complicated, very human way. Number 5, The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night. United Artists wanted a title track for the movie. They needed it immediately. John Lennon wrote it overnight, and the title came from something Ringo said without meaning to. The film needed a title track, and it needed it fast. Ringo Starr had a habit of mangling language and accidentally saying something more interesting than what he intended. After a long day of filming and recording, he looked up and said something close to, "It's been a hard day's night." Lennon wrote it down, went home, wrote the song in one sitting. United Artists got what they asked for, then some. The opening chord of A Hard Day's Night is one of the most analyzed sounds in rock history. That one massive, unresolved ringing chord at the very beginning. Musicologists have spent decades trying to identify exactly what it is. George Harrison played a 12-string Rickenbacker. Paul McCartney played specific notes on bass. Lennon contributed. George Martin added a note on piano. Whatever it adds up to, it has never sounded like anything before or since. And if someone played that chord to you right now, out of context, without saying a word, you'd know exactly what it was. That's how deeply it's in you. The movie opened July 6, 1964 in the UK. Critics who expected a cash grab walked out having seen genuinely innovative cinema. The New Yorker called it the Citizen Kane of jukebox musicals. The song hit number 1 in both the UK and America. It was the 5th US number 1 single the Beatles had in 1964 alone. But here's what the film also did. It introduced the Beatles as people, distinct, funny, individual. And once the world understood there were 4 actual human beings in there, the mythology shifted from Beatlemania into something more complicated. The film was the beginning of the end of the band being able to exist in public at all. And Ringo's accidental phrase has lived 62 years. That's what happens when the right person says the wrong thing at exactly the right moment. Number 4, Roy Orbison, Oh Pretty Woman. The song took 30 minutes to write. The growl in the middle was an accident nobody could recreate on purpose.
Pretty woman, talk a while. Pretty woman.
The title came from a quip made when Roy's wife walked out the door, and the woman who inspired it died 2 years later on a motorcycle. Roy Orbison was at home in August 1964 working with his songwriting partner Bill Dees when his wife Claudette announced she was going out shopping. Roy asked if she needed money. Dees glanced up and said offhand, "A pretty woman never needs any money." Orbison immediately started singing, "Pretty Woman Walking Down the Street." By the time Claudette came back, the song was done. They recorded it the following Friday, released the Friday after that. The growl, that low animal sound in the middle of the track, was never planned. Orbison did it once, spontaneously, during a take. Everyone in the studio froze. Dees told him he couldn't recreate it and they should leave it in.
Pretty woman, I don't believe you.
That 4-second improvisation is now one of the most recognizable moments in the year's entire catalog. Oh Pretty Woman hit #1 in both the UK and US in the fall of 1964.
Pretty woman, double wide.
7 million copies sold. And then the decade started going wrong. Roy and Claudette divorced that November, same year as the song's release, while it was still on every radio, because she'd been having an affair while he was out touring it. They reconciled, got back together, married again in December 1966. And then on June 6, 1967, a pickup truck pulled out in front of Claudette's motorcycle. She died instantly. 2 years after that, Orbison's house in Nashville burned down. 2 of his 3 sons died in the fire. And if you've ever heard Roy Orbison late at night and felt like he understood something about loss that most people are afraid to say out loud, you know where that understanding came from. Oh Pretty Woman is the sound of a man at the top of the world, and the world turned.
Give your smile to me.
Number 3. The Animals. House of the Rising Sun. One take, 15 minutes in the studio. A traditional folk song that nobody wrote. Recorded by 5 guys from Newcastle on a break from their Chuck Berry tour. And it became the most important record of 1964. House of the Rising Sun is an American folk song of uncertain origin, collected in Appalachian, Kentucky in the 1930s, sung by Lead Belly and Woody Guthrie, recorded by Bob Dylan on his 1962 debut, borrowing the arrangement from folk singer Dave Van Ronk without quite asking first.
Tell your children.
By 1964, it had passed through so many hands that nobody could claim it. Eric Burdon first heard it at a folk club in Newcastle, performed by a local singer. When the Animals hit the road with Chuck Berry in early 1964, they began closing their sets with it, partly because it sounded unlike anything else on the bill. Audiences stopped talking every night. On May 18, 1964, mid-tour, the band ducked into Delane Lea Studios in London. Producer Mickey Most had booked the session for something else entirely. The band talked him into letting them put House of the Rising Sun to tape. Guitarist Hilton Valentine played the arpeggiated guitar figure. Alan Price played the Vox Continental organ. Eric Burdon sang it at 22, working class, from Newcastle, and it sounded like it came from somewhere much older and much darker than 1964. One take. They listened back. Most said, "That's the single." It was 4 minutes and 28 seconds long. Radio didn't play singles that long. The BBC refused initially. Most insisted on releasing the full version anyway, saying, "We're in a micro-groove world now." It hit #1 in the UK in July 1964. #1 in the United States in September, where it stayed 3 weeks and knocked the Beatles off the top. The Beatles sent a congratulatory telegram. Bob Dylan reportedly pulled his car over when he first heard it, and then started planning his electric debut. But inside the band, the record created a fracture that never fully healed. There wasn't enough room on the label to credit all 5 members for the arrangement. Only Alan Price's name fit alphabetically. Only Alan Price received the publishing royalties. Price was out of the band within a year. The bitterness over one line on a record sleeve lasted for decades. Number 2, The Kinks. You Really Got Me. A 17-year-old kid was upset about a girl. He grabbed a Gillette razor blade. He stabbed a 10-pound amplifier with it, and by accident, he invented guitar distortion, the sound that every hard rock, heavy metal, and punk record since 1964 traces back to. Dave Davies was the Kinks' lead guitarist, 17 years old, frustrated, with a girl, with a sound he couldn't get, with everything. The amp was an Elpico AC55, a little green thing from a radio spares shop in Muswell Hill, North London. After he cut the speaker cone with the razor blade, it still worked, but it had a raw, ragged character completely unlike the clean guitar sounds of the era. He wired the damaged Elpico into a Vox AC30 to get more volume. Then he played a riff through it that his brother Ray had written on their front room piano. That was the first time anyone had deliberately produced that sound, and the song almost didn't get made as we know it. The first version, recorded in June 1964, was slower, buried in reverb. Ray Davies hated it. He went to their label Pi Records and demanded they re-record it. Pi refused. Their first 2 singles had flopped, and the label didn't want to spend more money. Ray threatened to refuse to perform or promote the single. He went on strike. Their manager eventually funded the session himself. They went to a different studio. Finished it in 2 takes. You Really Got Me hit number 1 in the UK in September 1964. Number 7 in the United States, and from the moment it landed, the ripple went everywhere. Pete Townsend heard it and wrote, "I Can't Explain." Jimi Hendrix called it landmark. Every commercial fuzz pedal built in the mid-1960s was essentially an attempt to bottle what Dave Davies had produced with a razor blade and a 10-pound amp. The rumor that Jimmy Page played the guitar solo, Dave Davies has denied it repeatedly, publicly, specifically. The official Kinks releases confirm it was Dave. It's always been his. And Van Halen? They opened their 1978 debut album with a cover of You Really Got Me. Ray Davies called it his favorite Kinks cover, and said it sent Van Halen on a career of excess. The lineage from that Elpico amp to arena rock is one straight, unbroken line. Number 1, The Beatles. I Feel Fine.
I'm in love with her and I feel fine.
John Lennon leaned his guitar against an amplifier. Paul McCartney played a note on his bass. The room went na-na. Everyone froze. And the first deliberate use of guitar feedback in rock history almost didn't make it onto the record. October 18, 1964. Studio 2 at EMI in London.
She's in love with me and I feel fine.
The Beatles were working on 8 days a week when Lennon, between takes, not really paying attention, leaned his Gibson J160E against the amp, and the guitar started feeding back through the room.
She's my little girl. She's so glad.
He'd already been messing around with a riff in the sessions. I told them I'd write a song specially for the riff, he said. The song became I Feel Fine, and the feedback, the accident, went on the record.
Me all the time, you know she said so.
Paul McCartney remembered it exactly. We were just about to walk away to listen to a take when John leaned his guitar against the amp. I can still see him doing it. And it went, nah. And we said, "What's that, voodoo?" George Martin said, "No, it's feedback." We said, "Wow, it's a great sound. Can we have that on the record?"
And I feel fine. Baby said she...
Martin edited it onto the front. They kept it. In one of his last interviews in 1980, Lennon said, "I defy anybody to find a record, unless it's some old blues record from 1922 that uses feedback that way. Before Hendrix, before The Who, before anybody.
Buys a diamond ring, you know she said so.
The first feedback on any record, I Feel Fine, was released in November 1964, the Beatles' 8th single. It hit number 1 in the UK, the United States, Canada, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, and Sweden.
She's my little girl. She's so glad.
It was the 6th US number 1 single the Beatles had in 1964 alone, a record that still stands. And when the band discussed the feedback in the anthology film, George Harrison said, mostly seriously, "We invented Jimi Hendrix." Stay with me on this one, because here's the part that gets me.
Baby said she's mine, you know she tells.
The feedback at the start of I Feel Fine is about 3 seconds long. Lennon considered it one of his most important contributions to rock music, and most people, 62 years later, pass right over it. They skip to the riff, which is exactly what he wanted, to sneak something genuinely revolutionary into the beginning of a pop single and trust that the listener would absorb it without being told. That's burying the revolution inside the hook.
And I feel fine.